Hey everyone, today we'll be building out our full SwiftUI login page with both Apple and Google sign-in with a looping video overlay at the same time. And without any further hesitation, let's dive in. So this will be our final output for what we will be expecting. All the code is in the description for the link in the GitHub, and yeah, we will be doing an overlay for a looping video and then having the sign-in buttons for Apple and Google, and a logout button that will also go inside of our main page, our content view. So yes, let's dive in and start from scratch. And now starting with our project, so what we're going to do is that we are going to first open up Xcode, create a new project, make sure we select iOS, click App, then Next, and I'm going to call this Login Example. Make sure everything is in SwiftUI, the language is Swift. We're not going to do any storage right now, given the fact we're focusing on the login. I'm going to click Next, put this on the desktop, and it should be ready. We can just ignore this, and I'm just going to further expand this for you folks over here. There we go. And make sure our simulator is already set to iPhone over here, down here. And if you ever face this issue, always go to General and make sure that your destination is already selected with the right utilities that you want to simulate on, so you can see the preview that will be displayed over here. And then the next thing we're going to do, so we're going to have this looping video, make sure it's in the proper aspect ratio that we will have. And I'm just going to click and drag, put it in here, and you can put in assets at the same time, but the big key component is to make sure that we select add to targets right here, so that way our entire app bundle will be able to pick up the name we will be actually using for a video. So now what I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to start creating a group. So we go to File, New, I'm going to go to Group over here. We're going to call this Looping UI. Then I'm going to create another one, File, New, Group over here. I'm going to take this out. I'm going to name it SignInPage. Then I'm going to start creating 4 Swift files. So File, New, File. I'm going to call this one LoopingUI. This is going to be our UI kit wrapper. Then I'm going to start creating 3 different Swift files over here. File, New, File. I'm going to call this one Apple Authentication File. File, New. Call this one Google Authentication File. And then a SwiftUI view, which will be the SignInPageView. Or you can call it SignInPage, but for the sake of practice, we'll call it SignInPageView. There we go. And so the first thing we're going to be doing is that we're going to start importing our libraries for LoopingUI. So we will have import SwiftUI, import AVKit, and import AVFoundation. So this entire file, the purpose is we will create a wrapper called PlayerView to allow looping of videos, our video, to play in the background for SwiftUI. So the reason why we are creating this wrapper is because there's a lot of functionalities that have already been well established within UI Kit, such as pen functionality and even looping videos as well. And SwiftUI is a relatively young library, typically started off in 2019. And as a result from that, just given the novelty of it, there is limited functionality within the library, but there are some components that we can take and use from the UI Kit library framework and put it inside of SwiftUI, and we do that by creating a wrapper. So wrapper is going to be called PlayerView, and we're going to call this accordingly struct PlayerView, UI view representable. We use UI view representable to be able to actually merge in everything from UI Kit to SwiftUI. And then I'm going to create a couple private instances. So we're going to have private let video name. We're going to call this string over here. Private let player AVQ player. A string is going to store the name of the video file. We're going to use this as a parameter eventually. And then the AVQ player is responsible for the video playback. And then what we're going to do is that we're going to initialize to set the video name and player. So init video. So if we were to go inside, look, we're able to just have the ID be able to pick it up accordingly. It does this properly. So I'm going to have a function here to this function will create and return a looping player UI view, which will be a class we will make and use from the UI kit library using UI view for looping video playback. So this function right here is going to be make UI view context UI view, and then we're going to return. We're going to implement our class name over here, looping player UI view, which will have the parameter of the video name, which will be a string, and the player, which will be the player as well. And we will also have an edge case to update the UI view. In case we need to have videos play. So we just have this function right over here. This one will be, if for your preference at the same time, we will have UI view context UI view representable context player view. So the reason why we have this in the first place is that it's just needed for UI view representable to be able to actually implement a player view. It's not typically needed, so we just keep it empty, but we use this particularly for the sake of when we are creating our implementing one portion of what we need from UI view to be able to have the video looping playback. This is required in it, but we're not going to be calling upon this function. It's just something that needs to be coordinated within the UI kit library. So, all right. And so the reason why we have this error is because we don't have this class yet. So we're going to make our class looping player UI view. We can just have class right here, and we will use UI view, so that way we can be able to wrap all the functions we need inside of here. And now another thing that we are going to be doing is that we will then initialize our parameters from what we have already made over here to be able to be implemented inside of our class. But first, what we need to do is that we need to have two private instances to be able to render the video and play it back continuously. So I'm going to private let player layer equal AV player layer right here, and then private var variable player looper AV player looper over here. So this handles rendering of video content, and this handles continuous looping playback for the video. There we go. And then what we will do, we need to initialize our class with the necessary parameters and an edge case when not using a storyboard, since we are wrapping this all together in SwiftUI. So first thing we need is that we're going to have one initializer where where this is required for using this class when we are not using a storyboard, and we do this by required init here, recorder, and scoder. Fatal error over here as an edge case. And then we are going to be initializing. So you're going to have these parameters. You're going to have video name, player, and video gravity. Video name is going to be the name of the video file you will call in the app bundle. And then the player is going to be the AVQ player instance from, notice where we have initialized the player up here. Video, and then we're going to have video gravity. Make sure it's camel case as well for good practice, where it's going to specify how the video is displayed. Make sure it's a string we have specified before. We're going to have player, AVQ player, and video gravity, which will be the AV layer video gravity, which will be resized to the fill. And then just to set up everything for what we need to do, super init frame 0. This calls the UI views initializer. Then we're going to have guard let file URL to call upon the location of the given file that we're going to have. So for resource, it's going to have a string over here. There we go. It's going to be video name with extension MP4, as we've seen right over here. We'll have we'll just return if it's not even over here. I mean, it's just going to be blank. And then we're going to have an asset, AV asset, the URL, file URL. We're going to have another item, AV player iron, asset, asset, and then we're going to mute the player video just in case. Depending on exactly what type of video you want to be able to put in, we're just keeping this universal. This is a silent video, but just in case. Player is muted. Yes, this is true. And this part is going to allow the video to be rendered and displayed. So we're going to have player layer, player equal the video player that we are calling, and then we will have player layer dot video gravity equal the video gravity. And then we need to establish the views hierarchy, because this has to be converted into a Z stack, unfortunately, because we're going to have the video layer at the bottom, and then we're going to add the buttons on the top. So layer dot add sublayer for the player over here, and we will create a looping player with the AVQ player and AV player item. So player looper is equal to AV player looper player player. Template item is just going to be the item from what we've already called. Okay, that should be fine over here after we have initialized everything. And then to continue directly inside of our class, what we need to do is that we need to adjust the player layers frame. So to make sure that we keep this universal, override function layout subviews. There we go. Okay. So super dot layout subviews player layer frame is within bounds. So that way we can adjust to multiple views at the same time, so that way the video is universal, because we could have different simulations, not just 15 but 14, 12, etc. And that way the video would adjust the aspect ratio relative to the device. And here we see a video filling the views bounds regardless of device and its aspect ratios. Okay, that should be fine. We have an extra one here, so make sure it's all clean. We don't have any errors over here. All we got to do is press Command B to be able to build this out. Make sure we don't have any errors at the same time. The build has succeeded. And now we're going to be heading over and building out our Apple authentication view as well. So, segueing over here, what we need to do is that we're going to import the libraries, import SwiftUI. Then, what we're going to be doing is that we'll use Swift Package Manager for this, because given the fact of Apple's ecosystem and their given the fact of their proprietary tech and everything else, they've been segueing over away from CocoaPods, especially when you're working in SwiftUI. They're just trying to keep it inside of their closed ecosystem. So this is why we're going to be doing Swift Package Manager. So go to Help at the top, and then you can type in Packages. You're going to add package dependencies, and then we're going to add in Firebase iOS SDK. Give it a moment to be able to load. There we go. We're going to add the package here. It's going to take a moment. And now that our packages have already been loaded, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to add Firebase accordingly. Then I'm also going to add another package. We're also going to take in GoogleSignIn iOS as well. Then we're going to add the package accordingly. And once we have done so, we're going to head over here, make sure that our packages are necessarily added. And what we need to do is that we need to add Firebase auth. There we go. And then sign-in capabilities. Since we're creating the Apple sign-in button, we got to go over to capability, and then we have to go sign in with Apple. It'll take a moment. And this was done already, but this certificate should be able to actually be made as a result from, one, having a developer account and then signing in with Apple as well to be able to utilize the capability. So be sure to have a developer account and already logged in and already set up with Apple, so that way you could be able to utilize more capabilities and such. And so what we are going to do next is that we're going to head over to Apple Auth. We're going to import the rest of our library. So import Firebase, base auth, and then import authentication services and import CryptoKit. Then what we're going to do is structure sign in with Apple. Indicate this as a view. And variables we're going to create is that we're going to have a private var current nonce, given the fact that we're going to have a random generated series of strings that would be able to associate with an Apple ID as well when logging in. It's just part of Apple protocol. So string over here. Then we are going to check the user's login state by doing an app storage local status. So we'll have log status variable log status, set to false initially to initialize. And then we're going to work on our main body, which is going to have the Apple sign in button via sign in with Apple button. We're going to configure authentication requests and then handle sign in completion and update authentication state, such as moving from one screen to another. So the way we do so in SwiftUI is var body some view, set it up, and then we're going to put in sign in with Apple button right over here. And then we're going to have continue, then we're going to have on request. We will have request in let nonce equal auth file random nonce string. So auth file is going to be a structure that we're going to be used. Current nonce equals nonce, and then requested scopes, which are going to be the full name and the email, and then request.nonce is going to be the auth file J256 for nonce. So this will be interfacing a class that we will, or a structure that we are actually going to be creating to be able to actually authenticate the login request. And so on completion, what we need to do is that we are going to have the result in. Let me just clean this up. There we go. Then switch result. Have a case when there is success for let the auth results. Switch auth results credential. Case let Apple ID credential as AS authorization Apple ID credential. Then down below, we're going to extract and verify the authentication data, where we are going to retrieve and decode the Apple ID token. And we do so guard let nonce equal current nonce. We have to set off these edge cases: fatal error, invalid state, a login callback was received, but no login request was sent. Have another instance, Apple ID token, Apple ID credential, identity token, else, fatal error. It's just going to be the same one over here. And then guard let ID token string equal string with the data ID token encoding UTF-8 else. We'll just have this for feedback. print statement, unable to serialize token string from data. Apple ID token, debug. Search. Then we'll have credential. Auth credential, auth provider. Credential. And on the inside, with provider ID apple.com, ID token, which would be the ID token string, and then raw nonce. And then this part where we'll sign in the user with Firebase using the Apple credential. Auth, sign in with credential. Auth result error. And if the error is nil, is not nil, print error or localized description as any, and there, that is what we will return. Just for an edge case, always account for errors, specifically what may be going on, and then we're going to have print signed in. Then what we're going to do is we're going to update the UI state upon successful sign in, and we'll have with animation. Over here, and then we'll have the log status set to true. Then we're going to print stating, hey, this user is already signed in with the respective ID. Because we have our switch statement at the top, and then we'll have default break. That should be it for the completion. There we go. And then we're going to be styling the button. So font, system, size 20, weight semi-bold, frame, width 265, height 64, corner radius set to 10, shadow we have color black, opacity 0.08, radius 60, x is a double, y 16, and then we're gonna have an overlay. Rounded rectangle with a corner radius 10. And then we're gonna have a stroke of color, white, line width of 2. And then we're gonna have a padding that we're gonna keep, which will be horizontal. All right, that should be the styling over here. And that should be one part that we have already taken care of. Now the next part, we're gonna create a utility function. The auth file, which computes a SHA 256 hash for added security and authentication, and creates a random nonce for Apple authentication. So we're going to start with struct auth file. So that way we can just call upon like what we did before up here. Well, there we go. In this part, we're going to generate a random string, which is the nonce used for authentication security, and the nonce ensures authentication. So the way we do that is that we're going to have a static function of random nonce string with a length of 32. Precondition, length must be greater than 0. Let char set character be an array. And we can just take all the numbers accordingly. And then A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, A, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Then we'll do the same thing for the lowercase A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Then that should be able to generate our nonce, and then we'll have the result. Var remaining length be the length, and while the remaining length is greater than 0, we will generate random units new int 8 16 that as a map. And now underscore in variable random u int 8 0 let error code equal sec random copy bytes. Okay, sec random default 1 and random. If the error code is not equal error sec session sec success fatal error unable to generate nonce sec random copy bytes failed with OSS status. Error code. And then we're going to return random. There we go. And just to be sure to look back and make sure you don't have any errors over here. There we go. Right over here. Just gonna make sure if we have all of what we need. So we have return random. And for randoms, for each random in if remaining length is equal to 0, return if random is less than the character set count, result, append car set int random and remaining length is going to be less than or equal to. Just want to be sure we have it already in. That should be good. And finally we will return the result here. And then we need to compute a SHA-256 hash of the input string. Static function 256 input string and then we'll have let input data equal data input tf8 let hashed data equal SHA-256 dot hash data input data let hash string equal hashed data compact map string format we use this symbol. And then we are going to return, make sure you capitalize as well, return hash string. There we go. And one more thing as well, for the guard let. Put a return. Small fix. Alright, that should be good. Should have no errors. Press Command B for building. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to head over and focus on the Google authentication. So going over here in the sign-in page. And we also want to go back and make sure that we have the Google sign-in, which is what we do have. So we'll do import SwiftUI, import Firebase, import Firebase off, import Google Sign-in, import Google Sign-in Swift. Then we'll establish a structure, Google Sign-in button view, and then we're going to have app storage, log status, var log status to indicate when the user is logged in and out of the app. Over here in the main body, we'll have var body some view. And our main body is going to be comprised of the body is going to be consisting of the button. For Google Sign In, we will have a Google logo image, and then we're going to have the text continue with Google. I'm also going to have all the code in the description as well, so you can interface with the image as well. We're going to style with padding, var over here. There's a border and a shadow. And so what we're going to be doing is that in our assets, actually, I'm going to actually be pulling this out in particular from the previous example. So let me just over here. So this is the logo we're going to be using. We just got to put this thing in here. And then what I'll be doing is that we are going to have a button first, action, handle sign in, which is going to be an action we're going to later construct throughout the rest. In this SwiftUI sheet, so I have an H tag of the image for Google logo as indicated by the name in the assets. We're going to make this resizable and have a frame of width 24, height 25. We're going to have a text indicating continue with Google. And so we're going to have a font, system, size is going to be 18, weight is going to be medium. Foreground, black. Good, just like that. And then I'm going to put in the style right over here. We're going to have our padding, frame, max width, which will be the infinity. Min height is going to be 50. Background color, white. Corner radius, it's going to be 10. Overlay. Rounded rectangle, corner radius, excuse me, and then we'll have a stroke of color gray with opacity 0.5 and line of 1, shadow, color black, opacity 1, radius 4x0 y 2. There we go. Good. And then we're gonna have a private function. The handle sign in, and make sure we have parentheses at the same time. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So this is going to be our function for the handling the sign in. It's going to retrieve the root view controller for Google SignIn UI representation fetches the Firebase client ID, configures Google SignIn, and updates log status. So the way we're going to handle this is that we are going to be going in order: guard, let, window, scene, UI, application, shared, connected, scenes, first as UI window, scene, let window equal window scene, windows first, let root view controller window root view controller else print error no root view controller found, return. There we go. Retrieve the Firebase client ID, and we're going to do that by guard let client ID equal Firebase app options client ID else print error could not retrieve client ID from Firebase. And we'll return. And we will configure Google SignIn with client ID. Let config. It's going to be GID configuration. Ooh, client ID. Shared instance. Config. We're going to initiate the Google SignIn flow. Present the UI on the root view controller. GID SignIn shared instance. View controller, sign in, result. In we're going to handle errors during the sign-in process. If let error equals error, print sign-in error. Description, return, and extract user authentication info. Sign in results, user let ID token equal user.id token token string, else print error token received. And then we are going to create a Firebase authentication credential and sign in the user to Firebase with the generated credential. So let credential equal Google auth provider credential. Yeah, with ID token, it's going to be the ID token string that we made, and the access token is going to be the user.access token string. All right. And then auth sign in with credential. So that means we're gonna have the auth result error in similar to what we did above. Handle errors when signing in, just for safe measure. If let error equal error print Firebase authentication error. Slash description, and then we're going to return, and then we're going to retrieve and log the authenticated user's name if it's available. So that means guard let user equal auth result user else return print user signed in user display name, just in case we don't have a user. And then we are going to indicate for a log status we have made at the very top to be true. Good. Make sure we have it all set up. We don't have any errors. Let me just build this, make sure it's all good. And we are good so far. We'll just ignore these errors, and now we're going to head over to the SignIn Page view. So that way we know exactly what to get, and we're going to be developing our logout button. And in the SignIn page, what we're going to do is that we're going to first import our libraries. We're going to have import authentication services, import Firebase, import Firebase authentication, import AV Foundation, and import GoogleSignIn. So we're going to see this preview update simultaneously. So this is in our SwiftUI sheet, and we can obviously tell because we have the preview right here and this nice update that they have. So we're going to first track to see whether the SignIn page is loading. So we're going to have a state. Variable is loading, indicated as a boolean, and we'll set this to false initially in this condition. Initialize the video player. State private var player is going to be equal to the AVQ player, like we did before in the looping video, And then we are going to store the video name. We will have private let video name be a string and initialize the video name. So we have public init video name be a string and self video name equal video name, like we did before already. And then we're going to head straight into the main body, and we're going to see the magic actually unfold as we were building this whole thing out. So what we're going to be doing, as mentioned before, I'm going to set up a Z stack. Then we're going to have a background video layer, use geometry reader to adjust the video size dynamically. Player view, like we already did in our looping UI, is going to load and play the video. So we're gonna have geometry reader. Here, geo in player view. Notice how it's already being called. We're gonna have the video name. And look, we have the parameters already. We have a video name for the string, which will be the video name for what we've already called up here. And the player is just going to be the player from what we've made up here. And on up here, we're going to have the player play. Calling a function inside of player view with the current AVQ player as well. Then on disappear, player pause, then on receive, we are going to have a notification center, and we're going to set that default to the publisher for UI application will resign active notification. And then we have underscore in for player play. Good. Right over here, as we have already stated. Should be fine. This may be an extra one. Yep. Okay. Going good so far. So now we're going to do an on receive. So it's going to be the same thing before, but it's going to be the instance when if the video finally becomes active or not active. So this is why we already have this already set up in place. So what I'm going to be doing is notification, center, default, publisher, much like what we did before, for UI application did become active notification. Yep. And player perform play. There we go. And we're going to ignore safe area. Good. Do the same thing over here. Just make sure we can adjust the video dynamically. There we go. That's our geometry reader. And the reason why we have this error in the preview is because it's expecting the video name, which is what we're going to call for Sun. So we're going to get to that very soon. So what I'm going to be doing is that, for the sake of it, let's just see what happens when you put in video name. And I'm going to put in Sun. Let's see what happens. Look at that, it's looping right now. That looks pretty cool. It's just going to keep looping continuously instead of just playing once. So this is our background, and we're just going to keep updating accordingly while we add in the sign-in view and everything else. So what we're going to be doing is now that we're going to go continue inside of our body after we have already made our geometry reader. What we need to do, and given the fact that we're still inside of our C stack, we're going to develop a V stack, a vertical stack, to include the buttons. So that means spacing is going to be 10, and V stack alignment, yeah, center right over here, and then we'll have the text for the content that is already set up in place, but center spacing is going to be 15, making sure we already have this right here, and let me just fix this right over here. There we go, that's better. We're gonna have text indicate my login example. There we go, we have the text already appearing right here. Now we're gonna make this nice and pretty. So we're gonna have the font be custom times new Roman. Size is gonna be 36. Now we're going to set up the foreground color to be black, because we're going to put a, well, I mean, if it's already black, we don't really need that type already, but it also depends on the system at the same time, so I'm just going to keep it for safekeeping. Just for sake of practice over here, padding, background color, it's going to be white, with white background. Notice we're getting our square already. Radius is going to be 10. And then we're going to have an overlay for our bounding, for a boundary. So, pardon me. Rectangle. Corner. 10. And a stroke. There we go, so we have a nice little border already set up in place. And now we're going to add a padding at the bottom so we can make room for our sign-in buttons. So it's coming together nicely. Now we are going to simply put in our Apple sign in with Apple button present. There we go. Continue with Apple, it's right there. And now we're just going to put in GoogleSignIn button view. Padding over here, horizontal, just to line things up. There we go. There we go. And we can also put 45, 60. Yeah, 65. There we go. Maybe just keep it at like 62. Or just 60 here. Yeah, there we go. That's better. So, we've already taken care of that. Heading is going to be... if we want to be adding a little something, but I don't think we really need this part. Yeah, there we go. It's already centered. It looks good. So this is what we have right now. And then I did have a white link at the bottom. Typically in your in your process, whenever you are trying to create a sign-in for your given login page, what you need to do is typically have a terms of service at the bottom, like saying, hey, since we're processing your data, in order to comply with the Apple App Store and everything else. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to make another VStack over here. Link. Destination. You could have a link over here as a placeholder. I'll just put in my website over here. So destination would typically be a URL string. .com. Right, yep, we have the string on the setup here. We have the destination. We don't need this label, what ID already gave us. And the text is going to be something totally different. Since we have our link already here, it will direct us to the website. So I can have a VStack already set up in place. Text by signing in. Text over here, and this could be a hyperlink. You agree to our terms and conditions, just for the sake of it. So it's just in terms of App Store regulation for what you're expecting. And then foreground color is going to be white. Keep things already lined up. An extra. There we go. Already set in place. And then I'm just going to see what happens if I put in padding. Makes it a little bit more center, but I don't think we need this. There we go. That's more like it. Cool. And we are doing good right now. Now, this is currently how the login page is actually already going to be set up as well. Now, you could add an overlay for a sort of like a black layer in particular for any means of opacity at the same time. And it is an option that one could be able to do, but this is currently what we have right now. And now what I'm going to be doing next is that within our login page for what we've already made, I'm going to segue over into the content view, which is, and now for our content view, which is where we're going to build our logout button. So what we'll be doing now is import Firebase off, and import GoogleSignIn, import authentication services, and then inside of a content view, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to do the app storage for the log status. Variable log status, set it to false to initialize, and then inside of our VStack, all we gotta do is that we just gotta add a button where it's gonna have an action, and that action is just gonna be calling upon a function called logout that we're gonna create soon. And I can just close this part out, and we'll just have this button say log out. And the reason why there is an error is because we haven't really set up the logout action. So all we got to do right now is that all we got to do is just have a function called logout, and then it's just going to configure for Google sign in and sign out. So Google and then Apple. So for Google, if GID sign in, shared instance, current user, D sign in. out, and then base with Firebase. We'll try auth, sign out. There we go. And now we will head over and focus on Apple. So what we need to do is that we need to pair up with the user ID already here. So that means so we'll take care of this after we take care of the Apple sign out. So there's just going to be a catch that we're actually going to be doing. So it'll just be a moment after setting this up. So if let user defaults standard string for key user ID, and then we'll have user defaults standard remove object for key user ID, and then log status is going to be set to false. And for the sake of feedback, we can just print out stating user is logged out. Catch over here for print string out. We'll specify this particular. This was sake of the feedback from the terminal that we would get down here. There we go. So it should be able to cover it. Here's our logout button, and now we'll head over to the login example app main page where we're going to actually integrate Firebase. So for us to be able to actually truly interface with Firebase and make sure that the buttons actually work in our SignInPageView, page view, what we are going to be doing is that first we have to go over to Firebase. We're going to need to go to console. Just take a moment. And we need to get the GoogleInfoPlist for us to be able to actually interface with Firebase. So I'm going to call this just the login example. I'm not going to enable it. I'm just going to continue, select the right account, let it load. Okay, we'll continue, and then what we're going to do, we're going to select iOS, and make sure that the Apple bundle ID matches the one that you have for your project as well. So just making sure all together. We're going to register the app. We need to download the Google Service Info plist. And where you save this is very important as well. Make sure that you save the file directly in here, and make sure that it's already listed as Google Service Info, so that way Firebase will pick it up once the app is already interfaced. And we are going to click and drag and put it directly inside of our app bundle project. Make sure we have add to targets already set up as well. Click finish. It should be already set up in here. So we have our apps information. Now inside, we already added the Firebase SDK with Swift Package Manager. And then what we'll be doing is that I'll be putting in this part over here and server login page, main page over here. So we will start that off, making sure that we are already setting up what we need to set up. register the app for Firebase. It's already set up. We're going to click next, continue to console, and then we're going to go to build, and then we're going to go with authentication. Should take a moment. Here we go. Get started. And then we're going to enable Apple. So we'll just enable this, we'll save it here. We're going to add a new provider. We're also going to add Google. We're going to enable that. Make sure your email is already set up in place. Save that. And Firebase is asking us to update the Google Service Info plist, so we're just going to do that. I'm just going to download this directly. And then make sure that our service plist is already inside of our project like we did before. Just going to make sure that it's also named properly. Then I'm going to click and drag. And just make sure it's already added to target. This is already set up in place. Okay. Here. That should be enabled and such. And now for what we need to do to be able to build out the rest of our main page app. For us to be able to interface to that one, we are going to need to have app storage, log status, variable log status, false. And then inside of our body, what we need to do is that we're going to have a Boolean condition based on log status entirely throughout the rest of the app. So we have the window group, and if log status is true, then we go straight to the content view. If not, then we are going to go into the sign-in page view, and then go over to the video. So is that? And open URL. URL and sign and shared instance handle URL. This is also called upon in another library that we need, so make sure we import Firebase auth and import GoogleSignIn as well. Okay, so let's test this out. Make sure it's already set in place. Good. And now this part is going to be critical, because what we need to do is that inside of our Google Service Info plist, what we need to do is that we need to take the reversed client ID. We're going to copy that. Then we're going to head over to our info plist inside of our main app bundle tab. We're going to go over to URL types, press the plus button, and then we're going to put the reversed client ID from the Google Service Info plist into our info plist right over here. And that should be able to get our app to be able to work. That should be the last thing that we do. And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to press Command R to be able to run this thing. We have our simulator right here. And there we go. We have our login example right over here. So you can continue with Apple to be able to start with. You can just continue with the password. And there we go. We're able to go in. We're able to log out. User is logged out. You can also do the same thing with Google. Right here, say continue. Go to my email, and I'm going to do the authentication. two-factor authentication. Just continue for the project, signing in. And there we go. We are able to log in and log out of our system all together, and then we'll just log out. And so yes, this was our SwiftUI Firebase login and account creation video. Thank you again for taking time to watch this. If you found this video helpful, be sure to feel free to please like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, please put them in the comments section as well. I will be happy to answer them as well. And also feel free to make suggestions of any projects you want me to be able to make to be able to help you folks on your journeys as well. And yes, best of luck to you on your endeavors, and hope this video was helpful. Cheers. Bye-bye.